with all of this acceleration of technology and the the divisiveness that we see in the world, often we don't know how to respond to such an onslaught of intensity. That our current story doesn't provide us with effective ways to respond. And so when we find ourselves in a moment when the degree of intensity is no longer something we know how to get big enough to interface with, one of the things that this can lead to is overwhelm. There's too much information, there's too much complexity, there's too much nuanced choice making. When that degree of complexity gets bigger than the story that we're holding around meaning and how what it means to be human together, this can lead to overwhelm. One of the things that we do at Newfield is we don't just introduce ideas, but we want to invite you into your own direct experience because that's what will last very often. That's how we one of the ways to embody the material. So let's go into a practice here. Well, let's just go ahead and drop in here. Let's begin with examining the linguistic aspect a little bit in terms of what narrative arises for you around overwhelm. So, what story are you living in right now around this quickly changing world, around keeping up with all of the divisiveness and changes every day and AI and all this kind of stuff? What's the current story that you're in around overwhelm? And just take a moment. You can jot some things down. You can just sort of think it through. What stories do you have around the intensities of this world in relationship to overwhelm? Okay. So we're going to come back to that. So just keep track of that somehow. Next, let's just drop into our body and go ahead and notice any sensations that you have there. If you tend to lean towards overwhelm and you can find any of those sensations, go that direction. If not, you can find any sensation that's there. And just make contact with the edges of that sensation. So let's say if you feel anxiety in your belly, just find the edges of that anxiety. What is it? What does it feel like? Don't go too far into it, but just find the edges of the sensation. Now go ahead and wiggle your toes and just feel the sensation of moving your toes. Try to put 100% of your attention in your toes, making contact as they move. Now go back to the sensation that you were connecting with. Notice how it's changed, how it's different, feeling the edges again. Then let's wiggle our toes again, feeling the sensations there. Try to put all your attention in the sensation. Really getting curious about all the little nuances. And then let's go back to the sensation that you were feeling in your body. Notice again how it's changed. So this practice, it helps regulate the nervous system. Very simple. Helps open up the soma. And this then can open us to go a little deeper into checking in with what kind of emotions, say other emotional sensations, or the impulse you have related to overwhelm. So when you're in this narrative of overwhelm that you live in, whatever that may be, what emotions tend to arise? See if you can feel them now. Do you get anxious? Do you feel sort of terror? Do you get stiff and tight emotionally? Just seeing if you can connect with that. And whatever emotional sensations you make contact with, let's just bring some loving presence, some curiosity. Whatever it is, whether you consider it a positive emotion or a negative emotion, or maybe you don't label it in that way, whatever it is, just embracing it, welcoming it. And see what happens when you welcome whatever emotions arise into these qualities of wholeness that we're starting to bring in here. Curiosity, love, presence. And then we can start to include the mood of the culture that you are in related to this fastly changing landscape of our lives. It could be the larger culture, it could be the culture of your workplace or your family culture. You can just choose one for now. Where's a culture that you're a part of that has a view of overwhelm that you'd like to change? It's impacting you in a way that feels like you'd like to see something different happen. We can take a moment and just reflect on that culture that we're a part of and their narratives, their collective narratives around overwhelm and how they respond to being a person. Maybe it's a workplace where it's constant go, 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 and you're never allowed to stop and never allowed to rest. Or maybe it's a family that does something like that. And so when you contemplate on this part of the culture that you're in, how does that impact how you feel in your body when you imagine that? How does it impact your emotional space? How does it impact the narratives that you have around this world and what it means to be alive today? And so, again, whatever you find, just bringing some love, some gentleness, some curiosity to it. We don't need to figure things out right now. We're just bringing love and presence to what is. We're looking at the landscape of our observer relative to overwhelm. Just getting information, and whatever we find, we're bringing some gentleness and curiosity and presence, welcoming it. And dropping deeper into this quality of ease, of loving presence, feeling the gentleness in the space and the depth in the space, letting that also support you. In support you in embracing what you're finding here. Okay, so now at the beginning, you made contact with a narrative around overwhelm. Let's just check back in and see um, if anything has changed without trying to actively change your narrative. We just explored the landscape. We brought some love and curiosity and gentleness. We're just dropping a little bit deeper into wholeness and just considering, how do I feel towards the intensities of the world right now? Where I would typically be overwhelmed, what's happening now? What conversations are arising when I allow my mind to think a little bit? And dropping a little bit deeper into this place in you that feels deeply coherent. Maybe you'll even touch a place that doesn't feel like it has problems, even as there's other aspects of you that do feel like they have problems. But there's a place in you that's deeply coherent, whole, curious, interested. And from here, I'm curious to get a sense of a little bit more of what new narratives want to arise from here around overwhelm, around the current state of this moment, without trying to change anything. Just seeing what emerges as you drop in and ask, what are some new narratives that might want to come into being? And finally, what's a new declaration that you want to make about how you want to interface with this world? A declaration, it's a claim. You're putting a stake in the ground. Okay, if I've been moving in this world from overwhelm at a 7, here's how I want to do it differently now. And so you can create your own declaration that can carry you beyond this short hour that we have together into something that feels meaningful and actionable for you. Okay, so we can bring the practice to a pause here.